finally get to the question, the original question that you posed on how this is conceptualized on the right and on the left, I will give a set of very simplistic answers here in an attempt to kind of point to some of the main phenomena. To start from the left, obviously the climate change, climate crisis is seen as an extension of capitalist exploitation, especially arguing that it is the corporations and the elites that drive environmental destruction for profit. Now, I imagine that this interview will also be watched or kind of followed by some of the right-wingers. And I think that with this first sentence, not even the right-wingers would disagree, meaning that this could be a potential common thread, this anti-capitalist sentiment, anti-consumption sentiment that is actually shared also on the right. Then on the left, there's this emphasis when it comes to the specific tactics, there's an emphasis on direct action, especially, ecological sabotage, something that is by and large unpopular on the far right. So we're talking about, the Extinction Rebellion, the Last Generation, and other radical climate movements, the Just Stop Oil, as, they're viewing these forms of direct action as necessary responses to state inaction. This is not really happening on the right. So another component of the left, radical left, climate movements is this emphasis on justice, especially through anti-colonial and, in some circles, anti-growth narratives. So a very strong anti-colonial sentiment, and a very strong justice sentiment. Now, I think that this anti-colonial and anti-justice sentiment, depending on the context, can also be found on the right. And this leads to a lot of confusion and a lot of conflation, especially when it comes to environmental communication. So, seeing climate crisis is the reason to dismantle the Western economic system, Western economic model. And the reason why I said that sometimes these ideas can be a motivating factor for the right. Take, for instance, the degrowth movement, which is, as we all know, heavily associated with left-wing politics. Actually, there is a branch, or these degrowth ideas are occasionally picked up by the far right as well. And I'm not saying by the right intentionally, but by the far right in particular. There's an example of the German ecological magazine, Die Kehre, which is frequently kind of commissioning texts and based on that are engaging with these anti-growth arguments on the far right. These are usually based on the anti-modern and the quasi-pastoral sentiments, narratives of nurturing the land and isolating yourself from, the outer world in an attempt to create a parallel system. So there is a lot of liberty being kind of this value that is quite present. So that brings me to the right wing or the far right ecologism, to be more specific, and which also was the title of the book that I wrote, exploring far right environmental communication. So far right environmental communication is predominantly centered around two main values, depending on the context and on the again particular organization. One value is purity, this idea that nation and nature are an indivisible unity that should be kept pure, whatever that means, right? Pure from immigrants, pure from the LGBTQI communities, pure from anything that they consider not to belong to the domain of natural. And then the second value is what I said, again, kind of borrowed from US right-wing politics, the idea of liberty, the idea of freedom. We saw that with the pandemic. And a lot of climate denial actually is motivated by this idea of freedom. We want to be free, That's why we reject climate policies. We see climate policies as an imposition on our personal freedoms, personal liberties. I want to drive a big truck. Again, I'm being very banal here, and I apologize for that, but we're in an attempt to clarify. I want to, ride a big truck. This should be my freedom. I worked hard for it. I managed to kind of, get the funds together to buy it. Why am I not allowed to have it? Why should I be taxed additionally to own such a vehicle? And etc. etc. So I think that from these two ideas, a lot of very specific far-right narratives on the environment are derived. And these specific narratives are, as I said, the fear of overpopulation, for instance, that is consequently kind of attached to this nativist sentiment, the naturalism, the idea that nature should be a blueprint for the social laws. We should be looking up to nature to organize our society. The idea that we should be self-dependent, self-sustainable, the principle of autarky, the nostalgia for the good old times and the good old environments.